The trilogy. Is it the worst or the best? Hi Yins, how are you doing today? I hope you're all doing well. I'm here for another week of crazy crafting goodness, I guess. I hope you are, like I said, all doing well. I am Gerald, Ginger Gerald Stitcher. You can find me on Instagram as the likeness ginger.gerald.stitcher. On Etsy, Ginger Gerald Designs. Everything is in the information section below. And welcome back to all of my returning subscribers. Thank you very much for continuing to offer the support and kindness that you continue to provide to me and my channel. I really do appreciate it. It has been a great more than 4 years that I've been on YouTube, on FlossTube here. And I really enjoy the comments and the well wishes that I'm constantly getting from all of you. And thank you for all of you who are just checking out my channel for the first time. If you do like what you see, I really hope you would be considering subscribing and hitting that bell so that you get notifications whenever I do post new content. Lately, I've been posting weekly. That's not to say I'm going to do that all the time, because I go through phases, as I think many YouTube creators do. But I have been posting more frequently lately. And they've been kind of long lately. And this one might be another one, as you already know. So thank you. Let's get into some administrative content that you guys have been asking questions about that I definitely want to answer. And it has to do with what is behind me. So one of the first questions that have been asked, and I get many comments and questions all the time about Henry. Henry is one of my prides and joys in my cross-stitching profession, cross-stitching career. I don't know what you want to call it, cross-stitching hobby here. I finished Henry a year and a half ago, 2019, June of 2000. Well, I think I finished him actually May 30th or something like that of 2019. He is a Heaven and Earth Designs pattern. I stitched him 1/1 full cross. I do all of my design, all of my full coverage pieces on 28 count Lugana, white Lugana, 1/1 full cross using the code for DMC. He is so I said he is a Heaven and Earth design. I had him framed at Hobby Lobby, and he's been hanging on my wall there ever since. He is framed by two mounted deer that my dad had hunted back in the 70s and early 80s that I inherited from my mom whenever she moved down to be near family. And so I thought it was just a perfect little setup that I have here on one side of my living room. And so I really like the way I have it all laid out. One thing that I love to decorate with are maps and globes, as you all know from, well, you might not all know that, so I shouldn't make that generalization. I love to decorate with maps and globes. I love stitching those kind of things. And so I finished the Vickery Collection globes design last year. So this was a 5-year anniversary gift from work that I got this globe right here. And so yeah, I think it looks really nice. This is actually the cabinet that I store all of my not all of my yarn, the majority of my yarn. It's primarily my sock yarns that are in this cabinet. It's a fairly decent size cabinet. You can see right there. So it's a 2-sided cabinet. I have all of my sock yarns in there, as well as some of my sweater yarns. So, and then I also had a question about the 2 yellow things that are over here on the card catalog style thing. These are cones of yarn. So these are cones of, I forget what the color is, but these are yarn. This is a cone of yarn from Holskarn. This is in their Coast yarn, so it's a wool cotton blend, and I'm planning on making a sweater out of this. This is going to be a new cast on here in the foreseeable future, so I'm going to hold it with 2 strands, and I'm planning on making a sweater. So I'm looking forward to doing that real soon, but I'm not ready to do that yet because I still have a few things I want to finish up, but I really like the way they look just as decorations. So they match my decor because I like yellow. So I have them sitting there on my stand. And so, yeah. Then I cut my lemons. So my lemons were finally ready to pick. I think they are still a little on the unripe side, but my tree was starting to get a little bit like it was starting to, I wanted to give my tree plenty of time to recuperate. So I went ahead and picked my lemons. They smell really good. I picked my lemons the other night. If you follow me on Instagram, you would have seen I posted the picture of them. I don't know what I'm gonna do with them yet, but you can see one's really small and then one's pretty much regular size lemon. So I'm looking forward to doing something with them, putting them into a meal, making lemon water. I don't know. These are my first lemons I've ever been able to grow on my own. Obviously, I live in New Jersey, so lemons are not a naturally occurring thing in New Jersey. So it was fun. I'm hoping my lemon tree currently has no leaves on it. So I'm hoping that it will revitalize and come back here in the spring. So my lemon tree bloomed last March, so March of 2020, and the fruit started to produce the fruit after it bloomed around April. So these these have been on the tree from April all the way through January of 2021. So April, May, June, July, August. 10 months? 10 months it took for my fruit to ripen. Now, I don't know if that's a typical time for lemons. I haven't really done the research for that, but that's how long it took my tree to produce the fruit. It is a younger tree, so it only produced two lemons. It did have more fruit on it, and then they dropped off because it just the tree itself couldn't maintain that amount of fruit to ripeness. I did grab a cup of coffee today because last week I was having some issues with my throat getting scratchy. I have it in my Seattle aquarium coffee cup that I got whenever I visited Seattle a few years ago. I am drinking a maple bourbon blend of coffee today. As always, I drink, I don't know if you can see it. I drink my coffee black. I don't like anything in it. I just like regular coffee. And I usually don't even drink flavor coffee. I just usually like Folgers regular blend coffee, but today I'm having a flavor coffee. Okay. that was all of that. Oh, one other thing that happened this week. So I'm still working from home, but I've been doing some extra things around the house just because I have a little bit more time at home since I don't have a commute. And so one of the things that I thought maybe some of you would be interested in that I've been struggling with cleaning my bathtub. I have very hard water here. Well, at least I consider it very hard. It might be soft compared to some of your waters. I don't know. But I struggle with really bad stains in my bathtub. And I can never get the stains off of the painted porcelain or whatever it is. So, I mean, I've scrubbed and scrubbed and scrubbed. I've used all kinds of cleaning products and could never get it off. So, and I don't know why I never thought of, oh, let's go onto YouTube and look up some kind of way to clean it and see if there's like some kind of miracle way of cleaning it. But I did it this week and there was. So if you're interested and you're needing some advice just like I did, I found a video on, on YouTube that basically you take 1 part of Dawn dish detergent, supposedly it has to be the blue, I don't know why. Then you take 1 part of vinegar. I had white distilled vinegar under my cabinet, and then you have to warm it up, but not boiling. So you put it into a spray bottle together, you mix it up, and you spray it all over the stains of the bathtub. You let it set for an hour, and then you spray it off. No scrubbing, and it works. Now, I had to do mine 3 times because that's how bad the stains were from the water, especially like where the water runs off of the shower curtain and then like right along that edge of the bathtub. But it worked, and now I have a really nice, clean, shiny bathtub. So there you go. If you're interested, I don't know, maybe you are, but there you go. A little trick. I want to thank you all for the love of and the appreciation that I had from last week's video on the gardening section that I had in last week's video. I will be continuing to put in a gardening section every once in a while. There will be one this week, so stay tuned for that. Last but not least, on the administrative section of this video, I just wanted to say real quick, in FlossTube, most channels, probably almost every channel except for mine, love to use acronyms. I just want to be very clear that there is nothing wrong with using acronyms in talking about your cross stitch, knitting, whatnot. I personally don't like to, so you're never going to hear those acronyms on my channel. Well, I don't want to say never, because sometimes I slip up just because I'm so used to watching other channels, and I just accidentally say them. I personally don't like them, and it's just a personal preference. I don't like them, one, because if I have to explain what I'm talking about to somebody every time I'm talking about it, then I don't see the need to use them. I think that's partially me being an educator, that, you know, if I have to constantly explain myself, then I should just use common language that everyone understands. And the majority of people in my life are not cross-stitchers. So I like to use common language that everyone, no matter their skill level or experience in the field, would be able to understand what I'm talking about. And that's not just in cross stitch. I'm the same way with education. In my education meetings and everything like that, I like to use common language because you never know who doesn't understand something. So I don't like using acronyms. Personally, I find them kind of annoying. I think using just terms that everyone understands and appreciates. But if you do ever have a question and you don't understand what an acronym is in the cross-stitch world, I do know what they are, so I can always help answer those questions. But you're never going to hear them on my channel, or you're rarely going to hear them on my channel unless I slip up. So I just wanted to throw that out there. I am unusual in that I don't like them. I know there's some others out there. I have some friends that don't like them. So, you know, but I just wanted to say that because I do hear a lot of people saying how they're explaining it all the time, and I don't find the need for that. So with that, let's move on into some knitting. So it's been kind of an odd week for me. I have been, I don't know, I say every week now that it's been an odd week. And it's been an odd week. It's been an odd week knitting wise. I did not meet all of my goals that I wanted to meet, but that's okay. I set goals just to set goals last week, but I didn't get to the goals that I wanted to, and that's perfectly fine. So the very first thing that I worked on that I wanted to get accomplished, and I did, was that I have now 2 completed socks. So I have a completed finished pair of socks for my friend. And there's a story behind these. There is a story behind these, and it almost crushed me last week. So, last week my friend came over for dinner, and a caveat with that is, I know many of you said you have a friend coming over for dinner and you have COVID. He also had COVID at the same time that I did. We got it together from the same person. We've been hanging out together because we were our only sources of socialization outside of each other. So we've been supporting each other, helping each other out, cooking for each other. So yes, we have been hanging out together. Just to clarify that, but we're good now. As far as we understand, we are not contagious anymore. So, but I do still have some symptoms, lingering symptoms from the illness itself. But he tried on one of, I think it was this one. He tried on the sock last week. Last Sunday when he was here for dinner, he tried on the sock. I made chicken cacciatore in the Instant Pot, one of our favorites. He tried on the sock, and I'm going to insert a picture when he tried it on and took it off, a stitch broke. And my heart sank because I didn't know what to do. I did, but at the moment, I didn't really know what to do. And I had no clue at all how to fix it. Now, in all reality, I did. I really just needed to process through things, but I reached out to my friend who is also a podcaster herself, Louise, who is Wildflower Wool on YouTube, and is also one of the Fiber Friends, which is also Caroline from Off the Grid Needle Arts knitting podcast. So Louise Patterson, she's also a designer who is the designer behind some of the patterns that I learned how to knit from. So she gave me some advice, which is exactly what I would have done if it wasn't for her telling me to do it anyways. And basically I pulled back the stitches to the blue row. I picked up all the stitches around the blue row again, and then I knit the last few rows of ribbing. So basically I redid these last few rows of ribbing and rebound off the sock. So that took maybe an hour, but there was about an hour worth of anxiety before that. But it's now fixed. Then the rest of the week, I went ahead and all I had was the toe of this sock, and I went ahead and finished up the entire sock, and now I have a complete pair. And they're a matching pair. So this is a ribbed sock of my own mental doing based on a pattern I did see on Ravelry, but I didn't want to pay for the pattern, so I just kind of did it myself. It has the rounded toe. It's a toe up sock. I used the rounded pattern the free my patterns. So it is the free rounded toe recipe by Lynn Ashton on Ravelry. You can find Lynn Ashton. It is basically gives you the rounded toe, which is my preferred toe. I did the German short row heels. German short row heels. And then I added into contrasting stripes in the ribbed sock. So I really, really like this. This is using the Valley Yarns sock yarn in Huntington. And this is a 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon. And I really, really like this sock yarn. Now, I want to throw in the one caveat. It's not the yarn's fault that stitch broke. I do believe it is my fault for the way I stitched in the bind off end. So I took some of your advices. I looked up those videos that some of you had suggested last week in the when I asked for some suggestions. Many of you basically suggested what I was already doing, but I did find some additional tips and tricks on those suggested videos that definitely helped in my binding off. And I now have 2 rows. This one I do have like a tad bump right there. I'm not really worried about it. In the grand scheme of things, it's going to be underneath a pair of pants and you're not going to see it. So I think the socks look great. I'm very happy with it. And hopefully when he tries them on next time, when he gets these, they won't break. So that is my first pair, not my first pair, but yeah, first pair of socks for the new year for 2021. And many more to come. So this is what I have left of, this is just one ball of the blue that I had. And this is the second ball of the grayish black, the slate or whatever color it is. And they're 50-gram balls. So plenty more to do heels and toes, or cuffs, heels and toes, or whatever else I want to do with other socks. And I have more of this yarn in my cabinet. So plenty more of this kind of sock yarn to come. Next, because that sock yarn, because those socks were complete, I needed to have another pair of socks on the go. One, I needed to do a vanilla sock or a plain sock, because the ribbing, as much as I love the look of these, it does get a little tedious and slow to knit a pair of socks like this. I'll pick that up later. And I'm trying to use up my sock yarn. I have so much sock yarn that I'm really trying to use up. So I pulled out just last night, I pulled out a skein of Patton's Croy sock. And this is called Cameo Colors. That's better. So I went ahead and cast on the toe of this, and I'm just doing a basic toe up sock for this. And I'm using, so these were using a US 1. And this is using a US 1.5. because the Patton's Croix is a little bit thicker. So I went ahead and cast on the toe up. I did the toe, and then I started doing the rounds of the sock. So I have about 30 rounds of the sock in from last night. It's so much quicker just doing a basic stockinette sock. And I'm just going to continue working on this set of socks. So I have two balls of, or two skeins or balls, whatever you want to call this, of this sock yarn. I'm gonna make a pair of this. And I have a few other colors of this kind of sock yarn, or of Patton's Croix. It is a really nice, woolly, warm sock yarn that I like to wear. I like to make for like winter socks for around the house and stuff. I will wear them out and about every once in a while, but they're really definitely socks for me, in my personal preference, for around the house. So now this pair of socks isn't for me. Again, I am going to be casting on a pair of socks for myself soon, but this pair is for somebody else. So there we go. Now, the other goal I set last week that I did not get finished was I wanted to finish my shawl. This is the Eco plus Hemp Rocky Mountain Spring Shawl from Cascade Yarns. Again, all I had left to do was this bottom section of lace, which actually I had the bottom section of contrast color eyelets and lace, I believe. So I got the contrast and color done. I cut it off because I was done with that color. I did the eyelets, and then I was like, I'm done. And I think the problem is that I'm starting to get tired of this shawl because the rows are so long. So I'm hoping I'm gonna push through. I'm gonna push through because I'm not starting anything new until this is done. Because for one, I need these needles. I need this cord and this needle. And two, if I start something new, this is never gonna get done. So I wanna finish this. So here is what it looks like so far. Again, it will need to be blocked out, and it'll look so much better once it's blocked out, washed and blocked and dried. And like, I can't even show you really well how it looks just because it's kind of like, it's dark for one thing, and two, it's just, you know. So this is the section I need to do now. It's the largest of the lace sections. So I will do that. So all I have to do is that lace section and then one row of eyelets and I'm done. So maybe I will sit down and try to crank some of that out tonight. But I don't, like, whenever I sit down, I want to make sure I have enough time to be able to do an entire lace section, because I don't want to forget where I'm at in the lace section pattern. So that's why it's kind of like, because they're so long. It takes a while to do one row of the lace. So there we are. Again, I'm doing this with palette, Knit Picks palette, and the Finley Heather is the light color. And I'm sorry, I don't remember what the green is. I think it's like fir, F-I-R, fir. I'm pretty sure it's fir, but I could be wrong. Last but not least in knitting, last night I cast on a dishcloth because I just needed some mindless knitting. Yesterday I had a kind of rough day with some symptoms from COVID. I just wasn't feeling that great. I was having a little bit of a hard time breathing. So I cast on a dishcloth. Now, here is, I wanted to use up the remaining color of green that I had, and I did. I finished that up today, but I did not have enough to cast off. So I had to tink back a row, and then I used just a little bit of a variegated that I had that matched, and I cast off with that variegated color. I like it. It's not exactly what I wanted. I wanted it to just be a solid color, but it works. So again, this is just like the one that I did last week. It's a little bit more rectangular than the one I did last week. I think I made the one last week more square. So it's the seed stitch or moss stitch. I think it's seed stitch for the border, and then stockinette stitch in the center. And then there's just a little bit of color at the end, which I kind of really like. Weaved in the ends this morning right before I filmed, and I have a dishcloth. Now, to be very clear, I don't use these as dishcloths. I use these as coasters to put under plants and to protect my furniture, things like that. So you could definitely make small ones like this and use them as drink coasters or anything like that, because it's cotton, you can wash them. I have used them as washcloths before, but I don't prefer to. So, and that, I'll need to fix that. So there you go. Dishcloth number 3 for the year is done. So this green is a Knit Picks Dishy, and this color one is a variegated yarn that I got at Hobby Lobby. So the only balls leftovers I have are these 3 balls here. Nothing really to do a full-size dishcloth left with. So I think the next thing I'm gonna have to do is break one of I have 2 skeins of regular Dishy. I have this in azure and blue. So the lucky thing is that all 3 of these will match both of these in some way. So I could use up these with these ones and then still have enough from these to make dishcloths remaining. So I could probably use up all of my cotton, and all of my cotton will be done. Super excited about that. I love using up and finishing up skeins of yarn and like using up stuff that I'm done with. So that is everything I have in knitting for this week. I did not touch my blanket this week. I just did not have the mental capacity to touch it this week. Maybe next week. So while I clean up all of this, why don't we do some gardening? Enjoy. Today's gardening tip is double potted pots. I don't know what they're really called, but they're basically like African violet pots. And I learned about these pots a year or so ago when I got my, maybe a little bit more than a year ago, when I got my first African violet, which right now is not doing too hot. This is a perfect example of don't overwater. So I had to repot this because I had it overwatered. It was oversaturated and it basically fell off the top. But what these pots are great for is the fact that if you have a plant like an African violet or something in the African violet family like the primrose, what you can do is, you lift up the bottom of the top of the pot, and then you water from the base. So you put the water in the bottom, and then you're able to put the plant down in, and it has holes. Let me show you in one that doesn't actually have a plant. It has holes in the base of the pot, and it absorbs the water up in, so it's an even watering system. It pulls the roots down from the top of the soil, so it gets a more even watering. It typically doesn't get the roots don't get oversaturated. So for like things that are water sensitive, like your African violets, you don't have to water from the top. You're able to water from the bottom, and it's just better all around. I have also found for things like my roses. This is a miniature rose. Actually, it's winter and it's going to bloom. Last year it didn't bloom in the winter. This is my yellow miniature rose. It's doing great, and they do great in these kinds of pots. So I have a set of 6, and actually, so I have 2. I have 2 African violet. Yeah, I'm sorry. I have an African violet. I have a primrose. I have 2 roses, and I have a begonia. Is that what this is? Begonia. And so I got this at Mother's Day for did my friend get it at work for Mother's Day? I don't know. And then they gave it to me. So I have it in here, and this is something that's typically considered in my region annual. You plant it, and then you pull it out in the winter because they don't last in the winter. But this is going strong. It's still blooming. But the reason I'm bringing this up this week is my friend gave me her begonia. Is it a begonia? Yeah, begonia. She still has her tag in it. This was her begonia from, like, I think it was her mother's begonia from Mother's Day 8 years ago, and it hasn't been potted in a very long time. So she asked me to repot it for her, and she watches my videos and everything. So hi, Lynette. So I'm going to repot her begonia, and I told her I was going to be putting it in one of these bottom watering pots for her, so that way it has plenty of room to grow, because as you saw with mine, it can get pretty big. And so even though you think that this is an outdoor plant that you can really only have for one season, if you take care of your plants well enough, you give them nice loving care, they can last for many, many years, even if it's considered an annual indoors. So this is a nice white variety. And you know, it's looking a little rough, but I'm gonna give it we're gonna give it some new soil. Now again, typically, and I said this last week, you typically don't want to repot in winter, but again, these are house plants that's never going to go outside. This particular plant will most likely not go outside unless it goes out in the midst of summer and then comes back in well before frost. But you typically don't want to repot in the winter, but you it's looking a little spotty. So you just have to read your plants well enough to know when it's time to repot. So it looks like this one it's time to repot. So I'm going to go ahead and repot, and I'll throw in a picture afterwards of what it looks like repotted. I hope you enjoy, and check in next week for Gardening with Ginger Gerald. All right, let's do some cross stitch. But first, I forgot to mention the sweater I had on during my knitting section. So I'm sure if I don't mention it, I will have many questions. So this is the very first sweater I knit in my knitting hobby. So this is the Alchemy Pullover. It is in the, I'm sure you can find it on Ravelry, but I got it out of the Rib magazine, I believe. This is using Knit Picks Wool of the Andes, and I used the 10 color colorway, so that you could either do the 5 color or the 10 color, and I chose the 10 color, and I picked the actually my brother picked out the colors. He was going to knit it, and then he chose not to do it because he didn't feel like doing it anymore, so I bought the yarn from him. So this is the Alchemy Pullover. So this is the first sweater that I knit on my own. I love color work. I love to jump in hard and go jump all in, and so this is the first sweater I did. I love this sweater, and it is freezing out, so that's why I wore it today. So I had to go down to the church today to assist with my friend and I, who both have COVID, so we were good together. He's the organist, and so we were participating via our Zoom service. I'm one of the choir members, so I sang while he played the organ, and we participated in our church service. So I wore this today because it is cold out. It is freezing here today. I believe we're supposed to have a snowstorm tomorrow. It did snow last week, which was kind of exciting, but it only snowed for like 45 minutes and then disappeared again. But I do believe we're supposed to have 1 to 3 inches Monday night into Tuesday. So tomorrow, which would be the day that you're watching this. And then we are, I think later on in the week, we're supposed to get another batch of snow. So I don't know if it's going to be a lot or not. We're not supposed to have a lot of snow this year for my region of the country. I'm really just looking forward to spring again. So I want my plants to start doing really well and be able to be outside more. So let's get into some cross stitch, people. I think the reason why I didn't get all of my knitting stuff accomplished because I really jumped into my my cross stitch this week. Do I have? Yeah, I think I do have all of my cross stitch stuff. So the very first things that I want to show are the fact that I have 3 finishes. 3 finishes. Now, first off, I want to say, I am one of those people that I am not a person who likes to keep track of things and data collect and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, that's all out the window too, because I am now data collecting. I have a spreadsheet on my computer. I'm not perfect about keeping it up to date as soon as I get something done, but within the week, I go back and update it. We'll see how long it lasts, but I'm definitely putting on their new starts, finishes, and just some basic information about the project. So I don't know who this new Gerald is because it's not the one that I know. Now, I will say, I was actually talking to my mom today, and I kind of feel like the reason I'm doing this right now is I kind of feel lost in my cross stitch. I kind of feel like I don't really know my taste right now. And I think I'm just trying to rediscover what I'm into cross stitch wise. I'm having a hard time deciding what I really like and what I really don't like, or what I really want to invest my time in stitching wise. And so I'm working on a bunch of small stuff, which is kind of keeping me interested. But at the same time, I'm just kind of like, I'll stitch it, but it's not really like what I truly want to work on. But I don't know what it is that I want to work on. But I'm loving stitching. So I don't think it's definitely not a total waste. I just think I'm in one of those phases where I'm rediscovering what I love about cross stitch. And I think that's a good thing. But it's hard at the same time because it's like, I really, really want to do, like, I really want to get back into those large designs that I want, that I like, but I don't know how, because I don't know what I want to stitch. I know that's kind of philosophical and kind of, I'm probably losing some of you, and maybe I'm not. And maybe I'm resonating with some of you. And if so, I would love to hear from some of you about that, because I think sometimes we all go through that. I think like right now, I'm just having that moment, and maybe it took COVID for me to, and I don't want to blame COVID, but maybe it just took me getting sick and having a lot of extra time to realize that I need change. I haven't been interested in my full coverage that I was really looking forward to doing this year. So I haven't touched it since the second week of January. Maybe it'll come out this week. And there's some other stuff we'll talk about in a little bit here, but I just wanted to touch base on that, about the fact that I'm just feeling a little bit lost right now. And it's not a bad lost, but it's just, I'm kind of lost. And I keep looking at all these patterns that I thought I liked or that I would like normally. And I'm just like, I don't know. And I don't want to invest the money in patterns that I don't know if I would ever stitch. So just some food for thought. So let's jump right into my finishes, which all three of the finishes I absolutely love. So I will throw that out there. I do love all of my finishes. So I'm very pleased with all of them. And I'm going to continue working the way that I'm working right now. So finish number 1, which we knew was going to happen, is my Fragments in Time number 7. This isn't the first one I finished this week. This is just the first one I'm showing you. So Fragments in Time number 7 from Summer House Stitchworks. This is the Fragments in Time 2017. I saw the preview of the second number 2 in the 2021 series. Another one that I absolutely love. I'm probably definitely getting the entire series of 2021. Whenever I will wait until they're all released and then I will buy them all. I'm not going to get them one at a time. So that is what number 7 looks like. I have one more to go in this series, which I could have easily stitched and been done this week and had the entire series done, but I just wasn't really feeling it. So I went ahead and just put this away for the week. But here is my number 7. So there is 5, 6, 7. So I moved the fabric over. Here's number 7. Number 8 will go here, and I will be completely done with all the Fragments in Time. So number 8 is a deer. So that's the other reason why I didn't stitch it, because it was pretty full. I don't want to say full coverage. It was dense in its stitching. So I'm doing a color conversion with these. It's not a full color conversion. It's just I'm using threads from my stash of color and cotton that most closely match the called for threads. And this is using a 40 count XJU Designs fabric of mushroom. This is a mushroom linen from XJU Designs. I'm stitching 1 strand of floss over 2 strands of the fabric on the 40 count. And that's what it looks like. Very pleased with this. Again, I've liked this from the start. I'm very happy with how this is looking. I'm looking forward to getting this completely done. Number 8. I will work on this week, and this will be a January complete finish. When I was stitching this, I was color completing as I went. So I started with the brown, which kind of made it look like a the start of a dandelion in seed, like the dandelion had gone to seed. And then I put in the blue, and then it looked like a dandelion with a blue mustache and lips. Now I can never unsee that. Now it looks like a dandelion with a mouth and lips, or with a mustache and lips, and the sun. It's just what I see. But I still like it. So there's my number 7. Number 8, which will be the last one that I stitch, is the deer. So that'll be coming out this week, and I will be finishing that up this week. All right, now where is my... Okay, now I'm ready. Finish number 2 is my Vickery Collection Winter Beer Stein. Winter Beer Stein, I'm doing these as smalls, so I'm going to do one each season, so all 4 seasons will then be complete. So I did the winter one in January, I'll do the spring one in March or April, and I'm doing this on a 28 count gold flecked Lugana, or a gold opalescent Lugana, and here is my finish. So I stitched on this. Monday was a holiday for us. It was Martin Luther King Day. So I stitched on this on Sunday and Monday, and I finished this up pretty much late into the day on Monday. There was a lot of back stitching on this, as there is in Vickery Collection designs. So lots of back stitching. One thing I did omit was there was supposed to be French knots up here in the snowy scene. I chose not to do the French knots. I'm horrible at French knots. I even looked up videos on YouTube on how to perfect my French knots, and they still didn't look good, so I just left them off. I think it looks fine without. So there we go. Number 1 is done. 1 of 4 done. I am in no hurry to get these done, obviously, because I'm doing them throughout the year for the seasons. And I will work on them as we go. So this is 2 over 2 using the called for DMC. So 2 over 2 using the called for DMC on the 28 count gold flecked Lugana, or the you can definitely see the opalescence. So very pleased with that. I will wait until all 4 of these are completely stitched up before I finish them. I initially planned on doing them as a flat finish, but who knows? I already have all the fabric cut for all 4 of these, so I will be good to go for the next one whenever we are ready to stitch spring. So the spring one is Pansies. It's another very, well, this one's even more colorful yet. Spring is I really like the top on this one, the rounded top, and it's Pansies. Very colorful Pansies. And then summer is the Hibiscus. And then fall is the autumn leaves, which I've already stitched the fall before. If you follow me on Instagram, you can definitely go check out my finish of that one that I did back in 2017. So there is finish number 2. Let me grab a drink of coffee because my throat's starting to get a little dry. Finish number 3, which was an unexpected finish, but it stitched up so fast and it was such an enjoyable thing to stitch. I absolutely love Renato Pearlin. My Renato Pearlin, I am stitching this design here. Well, not stitching, it's in the past tense now. I stitched this design here, and apparently I have a very unique French accent, according to a commenter, which is supposedly lovely. La saison d'amour, or the season of love, is the name of the pattern. It comes in 2 sizes. I did this size. And this was being stitched for a friend, same friend that's getting the socks. So this is on a 36 count Glastonbury Tour linen from hand dyed by Stephanie. So it's a green linen by hand dyed by Stephanie. I love this fabric. I think this fabric is great. I enjoyed stitching on this 36 count this time. Last time I stitched on 36 count was back in 2016. I didn't enjoy it, but I was fairly new to linen too, so that might have been why. I stitched this with Planet Earth fiber silks, 1 strand of silk over 2 strands of the fabric. So here is my finish, and that is a perfect color representation right there. So there we go. That is my finish. It is a slightly odd sized piece of finish for framing. I did find some frames on Etsy that I could order. It's like 4 inches by 10. So it's not a horribly odd. It's not like it's going to have to be custom designed. I'm just going to have to pay a little bit more for the frame, and then I'll frame it myself. But I really love the way that this turned out. There's what it looks like finished, blown out, and then that is what it looks like with the colors. Love this design. I love Renato Pearlin. My favorite designer. Really looking forward to, I'd like to order some of his larger designs at some point and stitch some larger designs. I love stitching trees. So there we go. Finish number 3, which then makes this number finish, because I'm counting each of the Summer House Stitch Works fragments in time as individual finishes. So that is 3, 4, 5. This is, I believe, finish number 5 for 2000. No, finish number 7 for 2021. A lot of finishes for me. I usually don't have that many finishes. But again, it's the year of the smalls for right now. Love this fabric. So those are my finishes. Then I was kind of all over the place. I was like, what do I stitch on? So I decided to pull out one of my projects, my older projects, which is not that old. I think I started this back in November or December. This is my Teresa Wenzler Millennium. You can find this online as a PDF download. I bought this as a kit, and I'm using all the kit materials. So the kit fabric and the kit threads, which are DMC. And basically I stitched this for an evening, maybe 2 hours, and I got bored. I just wasn't feeling it. But I did do what I set out to do. And that was basically fill in all of the blank spaces around the blue. So basically there were, you can see there were like blended thread. There were blended threads in through here that needed to get filled in. So I did all of that, and then I came down here and filled in the next color down here. And that is now done. So the next time I pick this up, I'm gonna go ahead and start working on some of these 1/1 planets. So all of the planets for this Teresa Wenzler design, all of these planets are stitched 1/1. The rest of the design, excuse me, except for like the angels, the angel skin is also stitched 1/1, but the remainder of the design is stitched 2/2. So what I wanted to do was make sure I got all of the background done, and then I was going to come in and stitch all of the 1/1. So that is going to be what's next. That may come out sooner or than later, but we'll see. It definitely looks better on camera than it does in person. It'll look good. It's just, you can kind of see some of the fabric coming through, but oh well. This is on a 28 count, 28 count even weave. I think it's a Jobelin or a Monaco, because it definitely doesn't feel like a Lugana to me, but maybe it does, I don't know. So there we go. That's where I'm at on Millennium. I'm happy with it. I just wasn't feeling it. But I did get some progress on. And progress is progress. Doesn't matter how much you do. So that's where we are with Millennium. Then, yesterday, again, I was just kind of like, oh, what am I going to stitch on? I have no idea. So I decided to pull out, if you remember, if you were here last week, you would remember I started to stitch in hand on some scrap fabrics, the Modern Folk Embroidery Birds of a Feather Smalls. So last week I stitched on this small one right here, this little, the smallest one. This week I decided to start on this larger one with the 3 birds. So that's what I decided to do. Again, I'm using the same fabric and thread from last time. So I just got to start on it. It's not done. But this is a 39 count Mirren linen from Extra Designs in the color, I believe it's Moon. I think it's Moon. So it's Moon. And then the thread is an Extra Designs hand-dyed, over-dyed, I believe it's over-dyed, hand-painted floss called Dried Leaves. So it's a really nice yellowy, variegated, yellow, browny, green, variegated. And I'm just stitching it in hand. It's not perfect, but I have the border, I have the outside border done, and I'm now working on the inside border. So in my spare time, just in between other stuff, I'm just going to continue working on this. It's nothing that I'm really trying to push through to get done. I'm just working on it. Just something to practice with. Again, like I said, I want to do some smalls so that I can practice working on small, soft finishes. My stitches aren't perfect, and that's fine. I'm okay with that because I'm stitching in hand. It helps me practice stitching in hand, and I'm getting better. So there we go. So that is one of my starts from this week and is now a project. And I'm going to continue working on that. Then the last thing I have that's a start this week is also a purchase. So I'm going to throw in some pictures of purchases that I made. I'm going to show you the picture of what I started here. So this is a picture of a monochrome piece that I decided to do, that I found online. It's an Etsy store. It's Castle. And I bought 4 designs that I will show you the remainder of. Maybe I already did. But it's going to be 4 designs that I'm going to do together. And so what I decided to do was that I pulled out a fabric from my stash. So this is a fabric that I bought from Silk Weaver when I was at the New Jersey FlossTube retreat. And here's what the fabric looks like. So it is a solo dye fabric. Again, it's kind of outside of my comfort zone. Again, I'm kind of like all over the place, just trying to find myself. So it's kind of purpley brown with hints of yellow. And this is a 28 count linen. Yeah, it's a 28 count linen. Cashel. 28 count Cashel linen. Then I decided to pull out, because it's monochrome, I wanted to pick out some colors that would complement the fabric, but also be something that I wouldn't typically stitch with. So I was on my stitching date with my friend, and I started looking at my full set of DMC, and then I looked at the newest colors, the 1 through 35 or whatever the numbers are. I've never stitched with any of those colors. And I found these 2 colors. I don't know how well. Yeah. So it's number 9 and 29. And that's what I decided to do. So one castle is going to be stitched with the 29. And one castle is going to be stitched with the 9. So one is going to be purpley, and one's going to be like the brown purple. So they'll be similar but complementary on the same fabric. And if I have enough fabric, I'm also going to do the one landscape in the 29 and one landscape in the 9. So then they match and then they complement. If I don't have enough fabric for both landscapes and castles, then the castles will go on this fabric, and then I'll try to find a complementary fabric for the landscapes, and then we'll do something similar so that they can be together on the wall and complement each other. But here is my start for that design. So basically it's just the outside border. Slow, steady progress. Stitched on this for maybe 4 hours, 3 hours, 3 or 4 hours. I know for at least 2 hours, which was this lower half, and then I think a couple hours, an hour and a half maybe up here, so 3.5 hours-ish. Down here, I was watching the last couple episodes of Bridgerton, which were, I liked the show, but it was hard for me to get through. I had to watch one show a day for me to get through that show. I know people binged it and they just like watched it in one day. I just was not able to do that. I just could not get through that show. And I don't know why. I think it was just because it was just a typical love show. And I'm just not into that kind of show. I thought it was going to be like a period drama that actually had historical backing into it. And it really didn't. And that kind of bored me. Just my personal take on it. So there is my my start on that castle piece from 2x2 Art Studio, I think is what it's called. So there we go. So I'm going to slowly keep working on this. This is the entire left side of that first castle. So now I'll be able to work across and down. So it's going to be 6x6 when it's done. I decided to do 1/1 on the 28 count. I didn't want it to be overly huge. So then I will do that and then start working on, I hate border. I'm not a border person, so I want to get the border done first. So I will do all the border, and then there's an internal border. Internal border. So then I'll do the internal border. So there we go. So that is my progress. So that is all of my cross stitching. So let's go ahead and talk about some plans and purchases. So I got a few things in the mail this week. Not a whole lot, which is good because I need to start slowing down on my purchasing. But I did purchase 2 new project bags. One of them actually has, they're both from Made by Mama Joan. So Mama Joan, Joan I met at the Midwest Cross Stitchers Retreat. We became good friends. We stay in contact every once in a while. It's been a while since we really stayed in contact, but I checked out her store and I found 2 that I really fell in love with. So this one is, this one actually is holding my, my supplies for my smalls. So there's that small that I finished last week from Modern Folk Embroidery. And so this is the Made by Mama Joan. And this one is just like a basic sewing style roller in the middle. And this one has like a seed catalog, like an old fashioned seed catalog, gardening type plus scissors and stuff like that on the outside. Really like that. Of course, it goes right along with my gardening. So very happy with that one. And of course, her bags are very well made. I have a handful of other bags of hers. This one she custom made for me with my request because that's my alternate reality Ginger Gerald. So there we go. Then I found this one that I really, really liked. I love this bag. So it's kind of Irish, but it's not because this is more of like, I guess, the inside is Irish looking. So it's like a green plaid. And then the outside is a green and brown plaid stag. So, you know, a nice... I have a hard time finding project bags that I like because the majority of the fabrics are just not my style. So whenever I do find them, I snag them up. And I don't want a lot of bags. So these 2 I really liked. So I grabbed them. And since I'm doing the year of smalls, these will come in handy because most of my projects don't fit in this style of bag because of the way I do my projects. So she is one of my 2 favorite project bag makers. Then I also got in the mail my Renato Perelin book that came from France. So this is Venice, or Venice. And while, so this is gonna come in handy for Year of Smalls, I was really hoping there'd be some larger projects in this book, and there's not. I mean, it's predominantly petite point in this book. It's all in French, so I can't really read it. I mean, I could read it for you if you really want me to read in, actually, I think, yeah, it's French. I could read it for you, and you could enjoy my French dialect. but I wouldn't understand what I'm saying. My favorite design in this book, and let me know if you'd be interested in a flip through. I'm not going to do it today because I would have to cover up all of the patterns, because you know the patterns are on opposite sides of the actual pictures and everything. But my favorite design, and I'm definitely going to be doing this soon, is these ones right here with the lampposts. So, I'm in a lamppost phase, people. So those will be getting done sooner than later. But this is definitely a very nice book if you're into smalls and landscape type smalls. I really do like the book, and these books are always really well made. There's what the back looks like. So it's a lot of this style type of picture designs. But yeah, I'm really happy I got the book. It's just not exactly 100% what I was hoping for. I was hoping there would be some larger designs in here, like larger landscape designs, but there's not. But that's all right, because I do really like some of the designs that are in here, and I'm looking forward to stitching some of them for my year of smalls. Last but not least, what came in the mail this week is my brother sent me a little gift. This is something that I'm supposed to be able to use for my stitching or for my knitting organization, and it's just one of these little containers, which I'm really happy for, because what happens is I have those little light bulb clips, and I have like 1,000 of them, because that's what I did. It was the cheapest thing to do, was to just buy 1,000. But whenever I'm on the go, like going to a friend's house or knitting in the car or whatnot, I do take a little notions pouch with my knitting material, knitting accessories in it. And I just throw all of that right into the notions pouch. And it's kind of hard to dig through and find what I need to find. So by having this, I'll be able to put like my light bulb stitch markers and my tighteners, my interchangeable tighteners in here, and it'll just be a little bit easier to find things. So Grant, thank you very much. So it's mushrooms, which I absolutely love, and it kind of matches my mushroom sampler that I stitched. So that is everything I got in the mail. So the only other thing we need to talk about today are my plans for the week. So basically, I'm just going to stitch what kind of calls to me. I do have a plan. I would like to finish. My goal is to finish that shawl. That's my goal. If it gets done, it gets done. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But that's my goal. That's going to be the only goal I set this week. Yeah. Other than that, I'm just going to stitch what really feels comfortable, as I'm still trying to find what I want to stitch. One last thing, I do appreciate all of your support and comments and suggestions onto what type of design I should put on that marbleized fabric. I did have a lot of great suggestions, and I do think I'm coming to a decision on what I'm going to put on there. I haven't decided yet though, but once I do, I will let you all know. But I'm definitely going to stitch something on that. Some people said that they would buy it from me, but I really do want to stitch something myself on there. So once I know what that is, I will let you know. But with that, that is everything I have for you today. I really do 100% appreciate all of your support and kindness on this channel. I appreciate all of the comments. I've been trying to get to all the comments throughout the week as best as I possibly can. I look forward to this week's comments, and conversation in the comment section below. You can always reach out to me on Instagram. I was able to make a friend through Instagram this week, and I always enjoy making friends and contacts through Instagram and through this channel. So always reach out to me if you have any questions. You can always email me with the email that's below as well, ginger.gerald.stitcher@gmail.com. And as always, don't forget to always be creative.